September 15th, 1944, 3:47 p.m. An American intelligence captain walked into British headquarters. He was carrying aerial reconnaissance photographs. The photographs showed German tanks, dozens of them, parked exactly where 10,000 British paratroopers would drop in 48 hours. The captain pointed to the photos. "Sir, these are SS Panzer divisions. If we drop our men here, they'll be slaughtered." The British officer looked at the photographs. He saw the tanks clearly. He said 3 words: "We'll ignore it." 2 days later, at 2:13 p.m. on September 17th, British paratroopers began landing at Arnhem. By 2:27 p.m., 14 minutes after landing, they encountered the German panzer divisions the American captain had warned about. 10 days later, 8,000 British and Polish soldiers were dead or captured. This is the story of the captain who saw the truth, the command that ignored him, and the men who paid with their lives. The American captain's name has been lost to most histories. He was a photo reconnaissance analyst attached to Allied intelligence. His job was simple: fly reconnaissance missions, photograph enemy positions, analyze what the photos showed, report findings to command. In early September 1944, he'd been flying missions over Holland as part of planning for Operation Market Garden, the massive airborne assault meant to end the war by Christmas. On September 12th, his aircraft photographed the forests around Arnhem. When he developed the film and began analysis, he saw something that made his stomach drop: tank tracks, fresh ones, leading into the forest. Vehicle concentrations under camouflage netting. The distinctive profiles of German Panzer IV and Panther tanks. He cross-referenced with intelligence reports. These weren't isolated vehicles, these were organized units. 2 of them: the 9th SS Panzer Division, Hohenstaufen, and the 10th SS Panzer Division, Frundsberg. Elite armored units, veterans of the Eastern Front, pulled back to Holland to refit after heavy losses fighting the Soviets. Refitting didn't mean harmless. It meant experienced soldiers receiving new equipment and integrating replacement personnel. The captain calculated approximate strength. Each division probably had 2,000 to 3,000 combat troops, significant numbers of tanks, artillery, experienced commanders. And they were positioned exactly where Operation Market Garden planned to drop lightly armed British paratroopers. He compiled his analysis into a report, attached the photographs, marked it urgent. On September 15th, he personally delivered it to British headquarters. He was about to learn that being right doesn't matter if no one wants to hear it.
British planning staff had spent weeks designing Operation Market Garden. The plan was Field Marshal Montgomery's. Churchill supported it. Resources had been committed. The airborne divisions were preparing. The political pressure to proceed was immense. When the American captain presented his intelligence, he was interrupting that momentum. According to his later testimony, the conversation went like this. American captain: "Sir, reconnaissance confirms German armor concentrations near the Arnhem drop zones. 2 SS Panzer divisions. They're refitting, but they're still combat capable." British planning officer: "How certain are you of this assessment?" Captain: "The photographs are conclusive, sir. I can show you the vehicle tracks, the camouflage netting, the tank profiles. These are definitely Panzers." Officer: "But they're refitting. They've been mauled on the Eastern Front. They're probably not at full strength." "No, sir, but they don't need to be at full strength. Our paratroopers will have light weapons. Even understrength panzer divisions would devastate them." Officer: "Your concerns are noted." Captain: "Sir, I'm recommending we either delay the operation until these units move or change the drop zones." Officer: Captain, we appreciate your thoroughness, but operational planning takes many factors into account. We'll note your concerns." The meeting ended. The captain left his report and photographs. He thought they'd be seriously considered. What happened next would haunt him for the rest of his life. The American captain's report wasn't the only warning. Dutch resistance fighters had reported German armor near Arnhem. British intelligence officer Major Brian Urquhart had compiled multiple sources confirming the threat. Allied signals intelligence had intercepted German radio traffic indicating panzer divisions in the area. 4 independent sources, all saying the same thing: German armor at Arnhem. British planning staff held a meeting to discuss the intelligence. The American captain wasn't invited. Neither was Major Urquhart. According to post-war accounts, the discussion focused not on whether the intelligence was accurate, but on whether it mattered. Some officers argued that German units were too weak to stop the operation. Others argued that Allied air superiority would neutralize any armor. Some simply believed that postponing the operation would be worse than proceeding despite the risks. The decision was made: proceed with Market Garden as planned. Ignore the intelligence warnings. The American captain learned of the decision the next day. He was told his analysis had been considered and the operation would proceed. He asked if the paratroopers being dropped at Arnhem would be warned about the German armor they'd face. He was told, "That's not your concern, Captain." And this is the moment most documentaries skip, because it reveals how completely intelligence had been divorced from planning. Major Urquhart, the British intelligence officer who'd compiled all the warnings, made one final attempt to stop the operation. He was removed from duty and sent on forced medical leave for nervous exhaustion. The intelligence officers who were right were silenced. The operation proceeded. On September 17, 1944, at 2:13 p.m., British paratroopers began landing at Arnhem. None of them had been told about the SS Panzer divisions waiting for them.
The British 1st Airborne Division dropped 8 miles northwest of Arnhem Bridge. They landed in open countryside. The drop was successful. No significant anti-aircraft fire, parachutes deployed correctly, men assembled into units efficiently. At 2:13 p.m., the operation seemed to be going perfectly. The plan called for the paratroopers to march quickly to Arnhem Bridge, seize it, and hold for 48 hours until British ground forces arrived. They began marching south toward the city. At 2:27 p.m., 14 minutes after landing, the lead British units encountered German forces. Not garrison troops, not scattered defenders, armored vehicles, Panzer IVs, experienced SS soldiers. The exact forces the American captain had warned about. One British paratrooper later described the moment. "We'd been told resistance would be light, maybe some old men and boys in garrison units. When the first Panzer appeared around the corner, we knew something had gone terribly wrong." British paratroopers were equipped for fighting infantry. They had rifles, machine guns, mortars. They had some Piat anti-tank weapons, but not enough to stop armored divisions. The German commanders were as surprised as the British. They hadn't expected Allied airborne forces to drop near their positions, but they were professional soldiers who understood how to respond to unexpected threats. Within an hour, German forces were moving to engage the British paratroopers across multiple sectors. The battle the American captain had predicted was happening exactly as he'd warned. British paratroopers at Arnhem quickly realized they were facing far stronger opposition than planned. They tried to radio headquarters to report the situation and request immediate support. The radios didn't work. Communication equipment that had functioned perfectly during training failed in combat. Some radios couldn't reach headquarters at all. Others could transmit, but couldn't receive responses. British forces at Arnhem were effectively cut off from command. They couldn't report the German armor they had encountered. They couldn't call for air support. They couldn't coordinate with other units. They fought blind and isolated. Only about 750 British paratroopers reached Arnhem Bridge. They established defensive positions and held against repeated German attacks. They were promised relief would arrive in 48 hours. They believed it. But British ground forces advancing up Highway 69 were making painfully slow progress. The single narrow road couldn't support the volume of traffic. German forces repeatedly cut the highway, stopping the advance. At Arnhem, British paratroopers waited and fought and died. By day 3, they were running low on ammunition. By day 5, medical supplies were exhausted. By day 7, the position was untenable. The captain's warning had proven accurate. The intelligence had been correct. The threat was real. But the soldiers at Arnhem didn't know they'd been warned. They thought they'd encountered unexpected resistance. They never knew that 4 intelligence sources had predicted exactly what they were facing, and that command had chosen to ignore every warning.
The American captain followed the battle from Allied headquarters. He listened to fragmentary reports from Arnhem. He watched intelligence updates confirming his analysis had been correct. German panzer divisions were engaging British paratroopers exactly where he'd warned they'd be. According to his later statements, he approached British command multiple times during the battle. "Sir, the reports from Arnhem confirm SS Panzer divisions are present. This is what my reconnaissance showed. We need to adjust the operation." He was told, "Captain, the operation is ongoing. We're managing the situation." By day 5, it was clear the operation was failing. British paratroopers at Arnhem were surrounded. The ground advance had stalled. Casualties were mounting. The American captain made one final appeal. "Sir, we should evacuate the paratroopers immediately. They're facing armor. They can't win that fight." He was dismissed from the meeting. On September 25, day 9 of the operation, surviving British paratroopers were evacuated across the Rhine River in small boats under cover of darkness. Of the approximately 10,000 British and Polish troops who dropped at Arnhem, only about 2,000 escaped. 1,485 were killed. Over 6,500 were wounded or captured. The American captain's warning had been ignored. His recommendation to change the plan had been dismissed. The soldiers who paid the price never knew they'd been sent into a battle that intelligence had predicted would be a slaughter. After the war, the captain never spoke publicly about Market Garden. He refused interviews. He declined to write memoirs. One historian who contacted him received a brief response. "I told them what I saw. They chose not to listen. Men died because of that choice. I have nothing else to say." Operation Market Garden failed for exactly the reasons the American captain warned it would fail. His photographs were correct. His analysis was accurate. His recommendations were sound. None of it mattered because command had already decided to proceed. After the war, the British Army conducted classified reviews of Market Garden. One conclusion was stark. Intelligence warnings were available, corroborated through multiple sources, and operationally relevant. The failure was not intelligence collection or analysis. The failure was command's unwillingness to adjust planning based on intelligence that contradicted operational preferences. When NATO was established in 1949, Market Garden became a primary case study. The alliance created specific protocols. Intelligence officers cannot be removed or pressured for providing accurate assessments that contradict plans. When multiple independent sources corroborate a threat, operations must be delayed or redesigned until the threat is addressed. Commanders who ignore verified intelligence and proceed with operations can be held accountable for resulting casualties. These protocols exist because one American captain saw German tanks, warned about them, and watched 8,000 men die because he was ignored. His name doesn't appear in most histories. His photographs were classified for decades. His warnings were buried in archives. But every NATO intelligence officer since 1949 has trained on his case. Every NATO commander learns what happens when you ignore the captain who saw the truth. The paratroopers at Arnhem fought with extraordinary courage. They deserved better than to be sent into a battle intelligence had warned about, but command had dismissed. The American captain saw that coming. He tried to stop it. He failed, not because he was wrong, but because being right wasn't enough when no one wanted to hear it. If you want to understand how modern militaries work and why intelligence officers have protections that didn't exist in 1944, subscribe, because the lessons written in blood at Arnhem still protect soldiers today. Next time, the classified report that finally revealed who knew what, when they knew it, and exactly how the decision to ignore intelligence was made. The document that changed how militaries treat intelligence warnings forever.